Welcome to Trainspotting, and it's an offshore special as we indulge ourselves in the rich heritage of railways a little further afield. Collins dips his toe in the water and pathetically paddles over to the Isle of Wight. I, on the other hand, being far more adventurous, make it all the way to the Isle of Mann. As my young lad would say, it's not fair. The Isle of Mann, lucky old place, 32 miles long by 11 miles wide, has got no less than 5 railways. And I'm not talking about busy commuter lines packed full of complaining passengers. I'm talking about 5 bona fide, interesting railways. We'll get to see them all during the course of the series, but let's start with this one. Now, this is Douglas Horse Tramway. We're just getting it ready for the day here, and that'll do nicely, just there. And in charge of the Horse Tramway is this man here, Peter Cannon. Peter, how long has this, tramway been here?
Started in 1876, so that's 126 years.
And do these cars date from that period as well?
These particular ones don't. These ones here from 1896.
So they're still pretty old though, aren't they?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, the interest here really for us is horses.
Yeah.
They're just being got ready for the day, aren't they?
Yes, I hope so, yes.
They're going to be led up in a minute. Let's allay any fears from animal lovers. What sort of life do they lead?
Well, pretty easy, really. Basically, they do 2 hours a day, which is 3 times the
Up
length
and down
of
the
the
promenade.
And then that's it, into the stables.
How far is that?
For 12 miles.
Is it? Right.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the summer life for them.
Yeah.
And then in the winter, it's...
Nothing. Run about in the field.
The Victorians went a bit railway mad on the Isle of Man. There used to be a cable railway in Douglas and an electric tramway up on the cliffs. This has lasted well though, hasn't it? This is the impressive terminal building of the Isle of Man Steam Railway. Although, truth to be told, it now shares its building with people who take drugs, customs and excise. Sadly, its railway network has been reduced. The only remaining piece left is this 15.5-mile bit between Douglas and Port Erin. The sight that greets you on the platform is pretty impressive. With her rake of 3 coaches is venerable old lady engine number 4, Lock. Hard to remember that this isn't a preserved railway, it's a working line under the control of the Ministry of Transport. Our driver today, John, isn't a volunteer but a paid employee, as he has been since 1961 when he started. A few memories since then. He was the driver of the last train back from Ramsey in 1968 and the driver of the Royal train in 1972. The railway was officially opened on the 1st of July in 1873 by the Duke of Sutherland, who cut the ribbon and then travelled on the train at the ridiculously high speed of 25 miles an hour. Just check and see if that... I've just made that up. Oh, it is the Sutherland. Right. Unlike the Welsh narrow gauge railways, the Isle of Man Steam Railway was specifically built to haul passengers. Back in Victorian times, vast crowds were arriving on the island via the steam packet, but as the roads were so atrocious, they needed something else to get them around. This is Santon, and this is a temporary terminus while some major engineering works are going on down the line. It's a bit of a pain for the passengers, but great news for us because it means we get to see things like this, engines running round. Fantastic. The railway hasn't always been owned by the government. Private companies ran it until 1978 with varying degrees of success. And it hasn't always been used by paying passengers. During the First World War, for instance, the railway was used in conjunction with a prison camp for internees in the west of the island at Noccolo. Lovely railway, isn't it? And by the time you watch this piece, the line should be up and running in its entirety. There has been a plus side to all this engineering work. Virtually all the track will have been relaid, resulting in a smoother, if not faster, journey. The future, it would seem, is looking very bright indeed for the Isle of Man Steam Railway.
Here in the UK, we're constantly hearing about the inefficiencies of the train operating companies. As the nursery rhyme says, when she was good, she was very, very good, but when she was bad, she was horrid. We get to hear about her every time she was horrid, which is why you never get to hear about the Island Line here on the Isle of Wight. Out of all the train operating companies, they are the most efficient. That should be the 823. Bang on. Steve Wade is the general manager of the Island Line and the man who finds himself in the enviable position of controlling such a smooth operation. Now, of course, you're famous for your timekeeping here on the island, especially with the Island Line. Are you like slaves to the catamarans and hovercrafts and ferries that come over from the mainland?
We have to. It's fair to say we have to all work together, and we do try as best we can to have fully integrated transport so that someone can go off the island or come to the island and be met by public transport. So all our timetables are geared around the Whitelink Fastcat service from Portsmouth.
So Steve, here we are on Ryde Pier. What are the problems of running a train on a pier?
We don't have any at all. The biggest problem we have is during the winter months with high tides and stormy seas. We won't run a train over the pier in those conditions because of the water coming into contact with the conductor rail. Right. And also, if it happened as a train was running over that section, it would damage the train. So we isolate the pier and we're putting an alternative service for people to go off the island on the boat.
So why was it decided to use tube stock on the island then?
One of the big reasons from when electric trains came over here, it was steam before until the late 80s, was the infrastructure we have. We have a tunnel just outside Ryde Esplanade, and because of the physical size of that tunnel, a normal standard, what I call a mainland train, was too big to actually be used on the island.
Oh, right.
So they had to look at suitable stock, and the suitable stock was the ex-London Underground trains. They were modified.
This is the actual tunnel we're in now?
This is the tunnel now. They were modified when they were brought over to the island, and any future trains that may be planned for the island would have to be of an underground size.
Right. So with the maintenance of this ex-London tube stock, is it Northern Line, by the way?
It is, 1938.
Right. Do you ever have to send it back to the mainland to be maintained?
No, it's far too expensive to send back to the mainland. We do actually do everything here on the island. Our depot at Ryde St John's, which you're more than welcome to come and have a look around later.
Can we?
Yeah, most certainly.
So here I am then in the maintenance shed at Ryde, and I'm joined by Jess Harper, who's the maintenance shed manager. Jess, what modifications needed to be made to these units before they could travel on these or XBR lines?
Well, first choice was to remove the negative earth shoe and stick with two positive shoes, shortening the shoe beam and removing a trip cock. The majority of the modifications were done at Eastleigh before commissioning over here.
So do these have to be sent back to Eastleigh for maintenance?
No, we maintain them here.
And is this what's happening over here?
It is.
So what's going on then?
It's a C4 exam, which is a heavy-duty exam. All the heavy equipment is stripped from the train. The area you're looking at, framework around the wheels, is a bogie. Now, the bogie supports the wheels and the suspension. It also holds the brake equipment, all of which is overhauled on a C4. The traction motor, which is an LT100, rated at around about 167 horsepower, is also overhauled. And that's really about it. It's all stripped by us and sent off on trucks to LTREW Acton. They do the overhaul work. The wheel sets go to Wembley for returning to put a new profile on them. On completion, it's returned to us.
Now this one, as we can see, is going back to its original LT red colour.
That's right.
Why is that?
Well, the management actually thought it'd be a good idea to go back for a little bit of heritage. And people like that sort of thing much the same as they like the dinosaur trains, so maybe a tourist attraction.
Bang on time again, and that's how you run an efficient railway in the 21st century. But how do they do it in the 19th century? Well, you can find out at the end of the programme as I'm staying on the island.
It's the Isle of Mann again. Steam railway at one end of the promenade and this at the other, the Manx Electric Railway. And we get a tour of the depot in the company of Paul Ogden, Superintendent of Transport. Thanks very much for allowing us to come to the depot this morning. Let's go back to the start of the line. When was construction begun?
Construction started early 1893, and the first section of the railway, as far as Groudle, opened in September 1893.
And car number 2 here, would that have dated from that period?
That's right, that's one of the original cars, number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
There was a number 3, but unfortunately that was lost in a fire at Laxey in 1930. But 1 and 2 are recorded in the Guinness Book of Records as being the oldest regularly operating tram cars in the world.
These are the latest of styles, aren't they? Number 2022 here.
The 19 to 22 series were built in 1899 for the opening of the railway through to Ramsey. That's its furthest point. And these trams actually then provided the mainstay of the service from then on. As you can see, they're rather larger and slightly more sophisticated.
I mean, we have to remember this isn't some sort of restoration project, is it? You know, this isn't run by a bunch of enthusiasts. This is a public railway.
It is. I mean, it was a private company which was nationalised by the Isle of Man government in 1957, but really has run continuously ever since 1893 via a few vicissitudes. And it's been an evolving process, but the railway really runs today almost in a manner that it always has done. And you're quite right, it's run by full-time staff, paid staff, as a transport operation, albeit of a vintage nature.
Right, you see that tram? Well, I'm on that, with a bloke who knows all about the Isle of Man. David Cretney, Minister of Tourism.
Well, the Isle of Man is a Crown dependency, self-governing Crown dependency. We're responsible for raising our own taxes. We have a value-added tax arrangement with the United Kingdom, and we also pay them to look after our defence and for consular representation in foreign countries, because obviously that makes sense to have an arrangement with them for that.
It doesn't mean that people need a passport to come here, does it?
No, the doorways are open. We're pleased to welcome people from wherever to come and spend time with us in particular. And obviously when people come to work on the island, they require a work permit. But other than that, there are no restrictions. We have the Snaefell Mount Railway, we have the Manx Electric Railway, and we have the Isle of Man Steam Railway. The Isle of Man Steam Railway in 1995 celebrated 125 years the Manx Electric Railway and the Isle of Mann Railway are both over 100 years old and are very unique and real treasures.
The railway was built back in 1893, allowing passengers to visit Housecake Estate, a couple of miles outside Douglas. It was a roaring success, I'm glad to say, but services were soon stopped. But don't worry, it was to allow the expansion of the railway to Laxey. It was double track all the way, and the line was officially opened on July the 27th, 1894. During the best part of the last century, the railway did have competition from the steam service. The electric railway claimed a timing of 70 minutes against the steam railways advertised 68. But we know who won in the end, don't we? I'm not seeing any steam here.
We welcome people who come and spend some time and to enjoy this kind of history of the Isle of Man.
OK, that's it. 3 down, 2 to go. And you can see the other railways on the Isle of Man. Well, why don't you keep watching?
Nowadays, if you travel on a preserved railway, then you're probably sitting in an old BR Mark I carriage, which sometimes can take away from the authenticity. However, if you come to the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, you get the real McCoy with locos and carriages. The line passes through 5.5 miles of unspoiled island countryside between Smallbrook Junction and Wootton, and it's not just the trains that are preserved, it's the infrastructure, the buildings and the operating practices too. Now, Leah Roberts, you're the Assistant Commercial Manager here on the line, and this is why I've come here today. I know this engine as hailing Billy.
Yes.
I'm a mainlander, you're an islander.
Yes, number 8 freshwater.
Ah, that's
yes.
the difference,
Yes.
that's the difference. So, without trying to sully her name too much, she's been about a bit, hasn't
Yes,
she?
yes, started off life in London on suburban trains, then coming down, being shipped to the island, and then going back to the mainland to run on Hayling Island branch, then back onto the island again in preservation. So she's been around a bit, as you say.
Now, she used to frequent a pub as well?
Yes, yes, she was. She became the Hayling Billy when she finished running passenger trains on the Hayling Island branch. She was bought by the local brewery, stuck on a small plinth of track and stuck outside the pub there. So to all the locals, yes, she's known as a Hayling Billy.
So why was this particular locomotive used then on that particular line?
Because of the weight restriction on the bridge on the branch line there, it was a very weak bridge, so we had to be a locomotive that was fairly lightweight, and majority of the locomotives were too heavy for it. So she was kept on really longer than they would have been kept in service because she was useful for that role to run on the branch line.
And what state was she in after being in the pub for so many years?
She was fairly reasonable condition, really, not too much deterioration.
Comparing her to like a saddle tank engine we've got over there, she's still very small, isn't she?
Yes, yes, it is very small, but it's got quite large cylinders, so it's fairly powerful and it's able to handle a reasonable sized train.
Now, when she is working a train, there's that constant banging. What's that noise?
That's the Westinghouse air brake pump. The pump on the side of the engine there compresses air in the reservoir for the train brakes to stop the brakes. The brakes will work by compressed air.
So you're still calling her freshwater after all her hailing?
Yes.
We'll agree to differ on that.
I think so.
Now, Leo, it's not just the locos that you restore here in the shed, it's these magnificent carriages. When do they date from?
Well, the earliest one to date from is around 1870 to the newest one of about 1920, 23, 1924. This one here built in 1916
So what's happening to this one at the moment? Because is it been rubbed down?
Yes, it's been rubbed down. It's having some woodwork replaced at the top of the carriage there, and some of the windows are out just for some general maintenance, and they'll be repainted. Be back out in about a month's time, I would have thought.
And southern green paint as well?
Yes, it's all original. The paints we use are the original colour paints.
And what about the interiors? Because the interiors of some of these carriages, they look so authentic.
Yes, they are. Yes, we go to great pains to get the right material, the maquette, and all these original posters in the carriages, the luggage racks, to make it exactly as it was originally, and a great deal of time and effort goes into to doing that.
Now, as they say in all great TV programmes, Leo, here's one I made earlier.
Yes, it is. Yes, it just recently outshot from the workshops about 3 weeks ago. It's all completely fully restored now. I'm just awaiting to go into traffic.
So is this hand painted, all these lines?
Yes, all painted by our experts in the workshop there, all done by hand. Many hours of work have gone into this.
Even the painting of the word third?
Yes, yeah, that's all
Not
painted.
transfer?
No, it's all painted on. All original handles. As you see inside, everything is original.
Wow, it looks absolutely fantastic. And that's what I like most about this railway. It has an authenticity and a charm. I know it's not exactly Disneyland, but it's run with pride and dignity, and they are truly 19th century values. Well, that trip to the Isle of Man looked really good.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Steam Railway looked good as well.
Very picturesque.
I've never been to the Isle of Man.
Lovely place, you ought to go.
Should you buy me a present, perchance?
Only an Isle of Man sweatshirt.
Oh, fantastic.
Bung it on, see what you think.
Thanks very much.
Did you get me anything from the Isle of Wight?
No, I didn't actually.
Thought we were mates.
It's a bit tight.
Yeah, well, they didn't do a fat bloke size.